Accusative and Dativ. Finally, we get to Accusative and Dativ, provokers of chaos, originators of mayhem, terror of the people and guilty of many students' frustrations and dropouts. Nah, I'm joking. They too are simple. Just look at this. I'll explain Accusative and Dativ together because actually we can use the same method to identify and differentiate both. Here is a step-by-step approach that you can use every time to decline accusative or dative. So here we go. The first thing to know is that accusative and dative are always identified by either a verb or a preposition. So whenever you see either a verb or a preposition, it means that either an accusative or a dative case applies. So step number one is, do you see a verb or a preposition? If you found a verb, then step number two is the verb sign? If so, don't go any further. Apply a nominative declension. If it's not, continue. Now, there is a bunch of verbs that always decline in accusative, and there is other bunch of verbs that always decline in dative. Always. These verbs are already classified on the lists added on the description of this video, so be sure to check them out. Step number 3 is the verb contained in any of these lists? If so, go no further. You know which declension applies. Now, if the verb doesn't appear on any of these lists, we continue to step number 4. Here, just ask two questions. What or who, and whom or to whom. Whatever answers when asking the verb what or who gets declined in accusative. Whatever answers when asking the verb whom or to whom gets declined in dative. Please note, the dative usually refers to a someone. And that's basically it for verbs. You see, it's even easier than I said it would be. So here's an example. My friend's mother buys me a dog. In a literal word-by-word translation we have Mein Freund Mutter kauft ich ein Hund. Here, according to our step list, we have one verb and no preposition. The verb is not sein, it is kaufen, and this verb is not inside of any of the lists. So following step number 4, we must ask two things. Number 1, what or who does my friend's mother buy? She buys a dog. Number 2, whom or to whom does my friend's mother buy? She buys me a dog. Which means a dog gets declined in accusative and me declines in its dative form. So we get Mein Freund Mutter kauft mir einen Hund. Now the last part. Mein Freund Mutter. From the genitive example in the past video, we know exactly what to do here, right? It goes like this. Die Mutter meines Freundes. And adding both together, we have Die Mutter meines Freundes kauft mir einen Hund. Perfect. See? It's simple. Let's see another example just to make sure everything's clear. I have a dog and a cat. In a literal word-by-word translation we have Ich habe einen Hund und eine Katze. Again, we have only one verb and no preposition. The verb is not sein, is haben, and it is also not inside of any of these lists. So we ask the same two things. Number 1, what or who do I have? What do I have? I have a dog and a cat. Whom or to whom do I have? Well, in this case the question doesn't even make sense, because for this particular example there's nothing that can answer to that question. This means the whole a dog and a cat get declined in accusative and there's nothing to decline in dative. So we get Ich habe einen Hund und eine Katze. Now, I want to add two more steps for declensions that come from a verb. The past example shows what happens when there's nothing that answers our second question on step number 4, which means there's nothing to decline in dative. However, what happens when nothing answers the first question, but it does answers the second? Here's a simple example. I love you, which in a literal word-by-word translation says Ich liebe du. Once more, we have only one verb and no preposition. The verb is not sein, is lieben, and it is also not inside of any of the lists. So we ask, what or who do I love? Careful, the answer is not you. In fact, nothing answers this question. Whom or to whom do I love? Or to be more clear, whom do I love? I love you. Now, if we follow step 4, you gets declined in dative, as it answers question number 2. However, this is actually not true, not for this example. In fact, you gets declined in accusative. This is because when the two-question rule is applied, but there is nothing to decline in accusative on the sentence, then the dative takes the place of the accusative. Therefore, on this example, you declines in accusative instead of dative. And in the end we have Ich liebe dich. So this is step 5. If by using step number 4 nothing can answer question number 1, then whatever answers question number 2 declines in accusative. For step 6, there is another list of verbs besides the accusative verb list or the dative verb list. It is the double accusative list. If you were to ask one of these verbs the two questions from step 4, you would normally decline something in accusative and something in dative. But since we are talking about a double accusative verb, both the thing that answers to question number 1 and the thing that answers question number 2 get declined in accusative. Makes sense? Just check the following example. The student asks the teacher a question. Translating that literally, we get Der Student fragt der Lehrer eine Frage. Again, there is only one verb on this sentence without any preposition. The verb is not sein, and it is not on the accusative or dative list. However, it is on the double accusative verb list, so both the teacher and a question decline in accusative. So we get Der Student fragt den Lehrer eine Frage. Just for the sake of practice, what would happen if we apply step 4? We would get what asks the student? A question. Whom does the student ask? He asks the teacher. So we would get both accusative and dative declensions, but again, this doesn't apply since fragen is a double accusative verb. Understood? Perfect. Having explained that, I will rewrite all the steps in a better way. Step number 1. Are we declining from a verb or a preposition? Step number 2. Is the verb sein? Step number 3. Is the verb contained in the accusative, dative, or double accusative list? Step 4. Ask the verb what or who and whom or to whom. Step 5. If nothing answers question 1, then question 2 declines in accusative. Perfect. So that makes it for verb declensions. Now for the second part of this video, I'll explain you how to decline from prepositions. Happily, declining from prepositions is simpler than declining from verbs. Just follow the next approach. Back to step number 1. Are we declining from a verb or a preposition? Step 2. Is the preposition contained on the accusative list, the dative list, or on the vexen list? Yes, we also have lists for prepositions. Don't you love it? If it's on the accusative list, then you decline in accusative, of course. If it's on the dative list, then a dative declension applies. Now, if it's on the vexen list, it means the declension can either be in accusative or in dative case. And what exactly is a vexillum preposition? A vexillum preposition is one that either expresses a displacement, going from point A to point B, or any non-displacement action, which implies not moving from point A to point B, but staying in A. If that's not so clear, let me show you some examples. When I say jumping onto the bed and jumping on the bed, there's a clear difference as what each sentence means. Jumping onto the bed implies someone was not on the bed before, but now is. This someone moved from point A to point B. This individual moved from the floor most likely to the bed. Jumping on the bed, on the other hand, implies that someone is jumping on the bed without changing location. This someone is on the bed and stays on the bed when jumping. So you see, some actions imply displacement and others don't. Now in German, this particular example, both jumping onto the bed and jumping on the bed are written the same way, springen auf das Bett, where auf is the equivalent to both on and onto for this example. The way you differentiate whether the meaning is onto or on is through the declension applied to the sentence. You see, the German preposition auf is a vexillum preposition, so you can use it to decline in either accusative or in dative. But of course, doing one or the other changes the meaning of the whole sentence. Now please, make a note here, because it's crucial for you to remember it. When using a vexillum preposition, decline in accusative if you want to express displacement, going from point A to point B. Decline in dative if you want to express non-displacement, staying at point A. Following these two rules means that jumping onto the bed declines in accusative as movement from point A to point B exists, and jumping on the bed declines in dative because the location doesn't change. This gives us springen auf das Bett and springen auf dem Bett. So step number 3 is, if the preposition is contained on the vexillum list, decline in accusative if the sentence expresses displacement, or decline in dative if the sentence expresses non-displacement. Now one more thing before we wrap this up. I didn't tell you this before in order to keep it simple, but prepositions have preference over verbs. Now what does that mean? In our past example, we have both the springen verb and the auf preposition, but we decline based on the preposition and not on the verb. Did you notice that? This happens every time. You must only decline based on the verb when there is no preposition next to it. Remember, prepositions have preference over verbs. And that's it. Awesome! You now know how to decline in German. I congratulate you. You just did in some minutes what most do in days. That's pretty amazing. Now, the only thing you need to do is practice. So be sure to check our website www.declinegerman.com, where you can find lots of different exercises to practice. Here you can try all the different combinations there are for these 4 German cases, and it's free. You can practice all you want. All these exercises provide you with instant feedback for you to learn quickly, so be sure to use them until declensions become second nature to you, until you no longer need to think about them consciously, because that's the best way to go about it. But that's just my opinion. Lastly, thank you for bearing with me through these videos. Leave us a message in the comments or on any of our social media channels if you still have any doubts. Also, please share us with your friends if you found the channel useful. Danke und auf Wiedersehen.